Hey, welcome everyone. I'm joined today by Christina Brady, founder of Lustre.ai. Christina, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. This is a ton of fun.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about your company. Really intrigued by what you do. I love the AI space as it's growing and finding new niches, and just want to talk about some of your experiences and what led you to founding Lustre AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is 18 years in go-to-market. I started my career as an account executive and worked on the AE side of the house and on the AM side of the house. I've been in full cycle roles. I actually started selling before there were really BDRs, so I got that kind of front of funnel experience too. And then I worked my way up to multiple forms of leadership across a variety of different technology companies, eventually landing as a CSO, a CRO, managing teams of all sizes from itty bitty to pretty large multi-million dollar orgs and in large companies. And then additionally, for the last 15 years, I've been a trainer. So I've been lucky enough to train over 30,000 revenue professionals. I've spoken at over 100 SKOs. I've done exec coaching for a lot of executives in technology, and I've just sort of built my entire career here. And what led me to start the company was actually just like kind of my own pain as an operator. One of the things that drove me nuts in sales leadership roles is this idea that we make our customers collateral damage to our inability to properly understand the proficiency of our team before they erode revenue on a customer conversation. Everything is always so reactive. We're reacting to long tail metrics. And there was sort of this missing data layer of really understanding the proficiency and the readiness of the team. And it drove me nuts. I would think to myself, how did we not know that that rep was not prepared for that call? How were we not aware that we were about to lose that deal? How did we not know that they had not been trained competitively? How did we not know all of these things until it's too late? And so we're learning and making mistakes on customer calls. And especially now, but always that's an expensive game to play, is to use your customers to identify your gaps. And so I started searching for a tool that would allow me to be more predictive and more proactive and really understand the readiness of my team. And one didn't exist. And so, or at least exist in the way that was going to be effective. And so I said, okay, I guess I'm going to build it if it doesn't exist. And that's kind of what got me to where I am now.
Yeah, cool. So, how long has Lustre.ai been in existence?
So we incorporated the company in January of 2024. So a little bit over a year and a half.
Good. And in that time, how are things going?
How's it going?
Yeah, how are you doing?
Things are going well. And well, that's I would say is an understatement. We launched into market a year ago. The product launched about a year ago, and we had this hypothesis that we were going to be able to provide revenue teams with data that they've never been able to have before and change the way that they produce revenue. And then once we actually got in market, that's exactly what started happening. And different than a lot of point solutions in our space or one size fits all training companies or just kind of individual, really simplistic versions of our technology, we're able to do three things really, really well. The first thing that we do is we're a comprehensive AI powered diagnostic tool. So we look at your entire go to market team, all of your customer facing employees, and we say, what are the critical skills that they need to be successful in their role from a hard skill standpoint, a soft skill standpoint, anything, and actually measure all of them down to that atomic skill level very objectively and say, hey, for the first time, you're going to have a map of your team's readiness to do their job. The second step of that is the predictive layer. Not all gaps are created equal. What so many go to market teams have to do today is they say, okay, we know the team has gaps. Let's just train everybody on everything. And what winds up happening is while you're training them on X, they actually have a call tomorrow where they have to perform against Y. And you're spending all this time up leveling them in an area that may be a gap, but one that isn't going to show up on a call in a couple of days. Meanwhile, they're still making these mistakes, and we're wondering why, with all the training that we're doing, why are we not seeing the improvement? So that predictive layer says, hey, we're going to look at the actual calls that you have coming up on your calendar, look at that against your diagnostic, and proactively predict where you're about to make a revenue impacting mistake because of a measured gap, and then prioritize the learning and the coaching against those gaps. And then that comes the prescriptive layer. Now that we know what your gaps are and where they're about to erode your revenue, we can prescribe the custom built AI practice. We can provide the custom built AI content or AI coaching. We can even give your manager a one on one coaching report that tells them exactly how they need to live coach you to help with the call. So it's really these three pieces of diagnosing the gaps, predicting where they're going to impact revenue, and then stopping it from happening in the first place that's changing the way that go-to-market teams produce revenue, and that's all because of just the frustration that I felt not being able to do that. So we thought we could do that. We did. It's going really well because we're doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that I love the three steps that you just defined for us. So that's really cool. How are you approaching sales enablement for your clients then? What are
Yeah.
you doing that's different than what they may be used to?
Yeah. So we created and trademarked an entire category called predictive enablement. And that is this idea that people spend so much time in enablement with so many different conflicting priorities, and all of them are so inherently subjective. Enablement today is looked at as a cost center and not a revenue center because it's very difficult to take the work that enablement does and tie it directly to revenue and even be able to prioritize it properly. Even if you train your entire team perfectly, it is near impossible to be able to measure the ingrainment of those skills and understand if people are using it. Even in my career as a trainer, I've trained hundreds of sales teams and thousands of revenue professionals. And still, what I would hear is, that's a great training. That's one of the best we've ever done. The team loved it. 6 months later, when I'd go back and say, hey, how's it going? They're like, I think good. We can't really tell if people are using it. We don't, there's this element of we don't really know if people are using the thing that we trained them on. And so the way to change enablement is one, again, not wait until the customer interaction to uncover the gap, but two, how do we go off of a comprehensive measurement? How do we take enablement and make it entirely data focused? Here's the team's proficiency. Here's where it's going to erode revenue. Here's exactly what we need in a scalable way to be able to up level everybody and allow enablement and sales managers to operate in their executive brain versus digging through muck and listening to customer conversations 3 weeks ago to subjectively identify a coaching opportunity. And then you sit down with the rep and they don't even remember that call. Like the way that we do it is so bad that we're just changing the game and sort of redefining what enablement looks like, but wanting to make enablement the hero.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been in sales and training for my whole career and well, training for like really concentrating on training for the last 8+ years. And it's amazing how many initiatives a company comes and brings in. And then as soon as the training's done, like everything's just kind of that's something we did. We're moving on with what we just have been doing, whether it's right or wrong, and nothing sticks. So it's really hard to find a stickiness. And
That's right.
it seems like you found something that is able to make training stick a little better, which sounds awesome. Love that.
Yeah, I mean, we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt literally what of your training is sticking or not and how it's showing up and producing your revenue before it even happens. And so it's proving that stickiness, which has never been able to happen before, and doing it objectively as well. You're not relying on one sales manager saying, "Well, I thought that was a great call. I don't think they have that proficiency as you." And another manager like, "I thought that exact same call was terrible and they need to work on." It's like, how do we remove all of those things?
Yeah, and in my experience, when you have to do things like certifications to get somebody ready to go out into the field, you have a lot of people sometimes certifying a large group, and everyone's looking at that a little differently. And if you can get rid of the subjectivity from that,
That's
it
right.
can be so much more effective. So
Totally agree.
sounds like you're finding ways to do that. That's awesome. What's been some of the challenging aspects of scaling your business?
I mean, scaling a tech startup in the AI space, especially as a completely female co-founded team, is difficult. There is a lot of noise, and we are not aiming to build a point solution. We never were. But as a startup, you have to start somewhere. And what winds up happening is when you have a really good idea, you're like, what is the wedge going to be for our product to get in market? And we knew that we had to not only build a comprehensive diagnostic that was first of its kind, but then also we knew that we had to build the product that was also going to up level and enable the go to market team, which means we had to get to minimum viable product for both of those things. Well, there's a lot of folks in our space who are competitive, and I'm using that within air quotes because they're only building AI coaching. They're only building AI role play. They're only building AI training. And so for us, we are like, we are getting the minimum capabilities for the diagnostic, the minimum capabilities for the AI coaching and training and the role play. But then when we're talking to organizations and we're like, hey, we have all of these elements, they're like, well, this company is further along with their AI coaching, or this company is further along with their AI role playing. And that's been tough as a startup because we're like, well, yeah, because that's all they do. Like they're missing this, they're missing this. But it's the age old, like, you're a startup, like, build better, faster, stronger, which is obviously expensive. I don't know if you've looked at the average salary of AI engineers these days, but it's massive, right? Beyond what a lot of seed stage companies can even afford. And so the balancing act of wanting to build quickly and capture your moat combined with competing with these little point solutions that just do one thing, it's been an interesting journey. That's been, I would say, the biggest struggle is just like the typical startup woes.
Yeah, gotcha. You mentioned that when we first got on the call today, you went to AI4, a conference in Vegas, and
That's right.
that's one way. I'm sure you got a lot of interest and a lot of people at your booth. How else are you reaching out to prospective clients, and what's your client acquisition look like outside of conference, or is it conference? Is that like a great way for you to get in front of the people that you're selling to?
Conference is certainly one way. Conferences are also really interesting for lead gen. I remember we were at this conference and like a representative came over and he's like, so what do you think of the ROI for the conference? And I'm like, I don't know. I'll let you know in 6 months when we see
Right.
like if anything actually came of this. Because there's brand awareness, there's lead gen, there's demand gen, there's generating intent, there's all kinds of ways in which you're kind of juicing top of funnel. And for us, we have like very much what I would call a multi-attribution approach. So me as the founder, I'm the sole salesperson right now. And that's very, very deliberate. I like to be at the forefront with my customers and hear what kinds of questions are they asking? What are they wanting? I'm also a salesperson. I have a network full of the exact people that I am selling to. And so there's been a bit of founder magic and just reaching out to my network of people that I'm trusted with and say like, hey, I've got something that's really good that you might want to check out. There's an outbound strategy that I deploy as well. Like I am absolutely cold outreaching to people. We have a lot of marketing and PR and SEO. We do a lot of social media. We've started getting into some influencer marketing. Like we are really trying to tap all of the channels to really build a good top of funnel go to market strategy before we hire salespeople into it so that they can hum a little bit more once they get here.
Yeah, cool. So you're spreading the opportunities wide to cast a big net, it sounds like.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Yeah, very good.
Definitely.
How are you
Yeah.
managing all that? Do you have
You know,
experts in those areas, or are you juggling a lot?
I'm juggling a lot. I'm juggling a lot. We have people in PR, we have client success managers. We are doing a lot of like paid campaigns with third party individuals. I've brought expertise in terms of SEO. So there are like experts at the table, but I would say the majority of the execution on the strategy is really me and a lot of my client success team as well. So when we're doing things like running pilots and customer outreach, our CS team bears a lot of the brunt of that.
Yeah, yeah, that's a growing pain, I guess. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it'll be great when you can build out more and have a lot more clients to support a larger organization to have all that in house at some point. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, good. So let's talk a little bit about your innovation, how you're implementing. So how are companies typically handling sales coaching before they come across Lustre?
It's typically pretty bad, not because there's bad sales coaches. It's because they don't have the information and infrastructure and tooling that they need in order to be successful. Like the most underserved role in a go to market team is your frontline managers, who are the very people who are so critically important in determining if your company is going to be successful. And what they have to do is they have to manage all of the forecasting. They have to manage all of their tooling. They have to proactively identify all of their coaching and training opportunities, work cross functionally to get that done. Take the little bit of time they have left in the week with their reps and figure out where am I going to train or coach you. And they have to do all of that flying absolutely blind, right? So what winds up happening is we get our reps in the one-on-one where we intend to coach them and we ask the same question every single time. So what do you think you need help with? What are you struggling with right now? Where can I lean in and help you? And what's crazy about that is then they give those answers and then the manager goes to enablement and says, "Hey, this is what my team is struggling with according to them, and we should develop training on that." And I've always thought that that was absolutely nuts. That would be like a patient going to see a doctor and telling the doctor all of their symptoms. And the doctor listens and goes, interesting. What do you think you have? What do you think your diagnosis is?
Yeah.
The patient goes, "Well, I don't know. I think it's this." And the doctor goes, "That's fascinating. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask every patient that I have today what they think their diagnosis is. And then based on the most popular answer, I only have time to treat you all as if you have the most popular ailment, unfortunately." And it goes back to like a stopped clock is right twice a day. Some people will be able to say, "Yep, I got it right. That's what I need to help with." Everyone else is gonna sit through a lot of training and coaching that they don't actually need, and then we wonder why it's not working. And so that's how we train and coach because we don't give people a diagnostic layer that tells them where their people are, as well-intentioned as we are.
Yeah, I love that analogy. That's a really interesting the doctor asking the patient for their diagnosis. Really,
Literally what go-to-market teams do today. You ask about the current state of coaching, it's that.
I see that. Yeah, I've experienced that. The sales teams tell the training department what they think they need when there's been no diagnosis.
There's been no objective diagnosis. There's been stressed out managers listening to pre-recorded calls that already happened weeks ago and subjectively trying to determine, after listening to it on 4x speed or whatever it is, what they think the coaching opportunities are. But what you're doing is you're coaching to the past. You're Monday morning quarterbacking. What you're not doing is saying, okay, that's what happened 3 weeks ago. What's going to happen tomorrow? I have no idea. So let's just coach and train to whatever happened 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, interesting. So when you offer some of your AI solutions and
Yeah.
introducing AI coaching to companies, what kind of resistance do you see, especially with the AI? Are more and more people becoming accepting of the idea, or are they looking for the idea of AI assistance, or are they still pushing back?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's a lot of mistrust around AI from a functionality standpoint, and then also from just like a trust and security standpoint. There's a lot of really sloppy technology that's happening right now. Like, there's sloppy technology of like, you get a lot of AI companies that are basically a glorified user interface directly on top of a large language model with no custom coding. You also get a lot of AI companies that are building quick tech, and they have one thing that they do really well, and they're trying to check the box of everything else. And so they're trying to say, like, we're an AI company. We are going to be your one platform to do literally everything for, and like, no platform can do that. And we have seen so many legacy players in the space, like Gong, that will do that, that say, we do this, we do this, we do this, we do this. And then people who are Gong users will say, well, Gong has this, so I'll try Gong's version of it first. And they go, well, that wasn't any good. It doesn't mean that Gong's not any good. It means they're trying to check all of these boxes. And so what else is difficult is when you're trying to specialize in really solving one or two problems really well, you'll have a lot of companies that are like, well, does it also do this? Can I replace this? Can I do this? Can I do this? And you're like, no. And also, you probably shouldn't. Like, you should probably have a lean tech stack, but not as lean as you're saying.
Yeah, gotcha. So when you have someone that you've convinced and they're on board, what do you do to measure the impact of the training that you're offering and or the solution that you're offering?
Yeah, we like to tie it to kind of their core metrics. So it's like at the end of the day, what core metrics are important for them in determining success of any solution? Is that ACV increase? Is that opportunity increase? Is that decreasing your ramp times? Is that being able to improve your skill proficiency in a measured way? Is that the number of revenue impacting mistakes that we're able to avoid? Is that, it's XYZ. So the first thing we ask them is like, hey, we have some ways that we can measure this, right? Like, most customers do XYZ, but for you, what are the KPIs that you are measuring? Do you have an accurate way to do that? And then we always look at, hey, prior to Lustre and post Lustre, what are the impacts that we are seeing? And in every one of those buckets that I mentioned, we've seen significant increases with Lustre customers versus non-Lustre customers. And so I don't necessarily always believe in going to companies and saying like, hey, here's what we think you should measure. It's what's critically important for the business. If you have an answer to that, great, let's measure against that. And maybe we'll suggest a couple other ones. If you really don't know what you're measuring or know how to measure, and you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't, at how many folks that's the case where they don't know what they're measuring, that's when we can come in and make some suggestions, okay, and say, okay, here's the lift that we think that we're going to be able to get over the course of the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, in training, and it's really hard to measure the ROI on this training initiative or this training initiative or these sets of workshops. And a lot of times, like ROI is measured by completion and follow up assessments. but what does that contribute to the bottom line? So it's really hard to measure that. Are you able to find like concrete, hey, this is how our solution impacted your bottom line?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how do you do that? What do you do to show?
Well, it comes from their data, right? So when we have, our integration into the CRM, then we are able to see the performance of individual teams, and then we can rank those performance based on their proficiency map and the skill increase, right? So we can say X individual prior to Lustre was performing at this level. Post Lustre, we've seen lifts in the proficiency for this part of the sales process, this part of the sales process. This is where their KPIs have improved. And not only did they improve their skill proficiency by 30, but their ACV increased by X percent. And then we can say, so this person we can actually directly tie because we're measuring the skills in real time. We can actually say, hey, because of the work that we were able to do with Lustre, we can tie that now directly to not only the proficiency increase, but that proficiency increase has now resulted in these revenue impacting KPIs.
Awesome. So you're basically mapping before and after, and they can just see a clear increase in skills.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. So when you get somebody on board, what surprises you most about their reactions to your solution?
I'd say at this point, it doesn't surprise us anymore. It more makes me go like, phew. Like anytime you're building technology, you're like, it works. I would say when they're going in there and they're like, this tool is hyper realistic. The reps are enjoying watching this. Like when we get success stories, like a rep that says like, hey, I practiced an actual call before I went on this call and I was able to one call close it, or I closed a bigger deal, right? It's like hearing the wins from the end users is something as a former C-suite exec, I didn't hear a lot. I did not hear a lot of my end users for enablement tools that I purchased raving about how much the tool is helping them be better. And so being able to delight them at that level has been huge.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's change gears a little bit. Talk about maybe some growth and challenges you may be facing at your stage in your company. So, what aspects of what you're offering now would you like to improve? Like, how would you like to take it to the next step?
Yeah. I mean, I would say for all of us, it's continuing to build and get beyond kind of that seed stage. We have a very, very discernible moat and we're doing really, really unique things. We've already had several companies that have copied us not just from a tech standpoint, but even from like a messaging standpoint, right? And so, like, yes, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but also maintaining your edge is really, really critically important. And so, I would say continuing to hone in on making sure that we have product market fit, making sure that we are honing in on the right ICP, making sure that we're making the right product roadmap decisions for the right people, right? It's really easy when you get a big dazzling logo that says like, hey, here's what we would love for you to build and then we'll buy, and we go, oh my god, like that's $1 million opportunity, and then you look at the rest of your customer SKU and futures and you go, okay, like that tool is going to be really great for them, but does that serve the overall customer base? Maybe not, and so making sure that we're making those right decisions is always something that keeps me up at night a little bit.
Yeah. So, if there was a tool or a process you could add to your internal workings, what would you do?
Be a tool or a process, it would be making sure that we're hiring people the right way. I think it's really easy to hire people in to solve a problem, but you're also messing with people's livelihood when you do that. So I'm certainly not in the camp of I'm only hiring AI agents at my AI company. And, I believe very much in hiring people, but hiring the right people to do the right things and doing that with a lot of care. The last thing that I want is to hire too quickly or hire too slowly and then either make my employees or my customers collateral damage to that.
Yeah, that's fair. That makes sense. ChatGPT 5 just rolled
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
and I think we're on Gronk 4. So, there's all of this implementation in AI, which the noise that generates is increasing everyone's awareness of AI and increasing the demand for being involved with AI. So,
Yeah.
how are you handling that increased demand for AI solutions? Are people coming to you for a solution rather than you having to come to them? How are you handling that? Just the AI noise that's happening, and is that
Big time.
impacting you? Yeah. How
Yeah,
so?
I mean, the noise is helping in a sense that it provides a lot of top of funnel activity for us. What's interesting is there's 2 kinds of AI buyers out there. There's AI buyers that are like, "I just know that I have to buy some AI solutions, but I don't necessarily know what problem I'm solving. I've just been tasked with going and buying the AI," right? And so then you kind of get them in funnel and they're like, "What do you all do? And what problem do you solve? And let me think about how we could use that." And it's really the wrong way to go about it. And then the other buyers are like, "Hey, we have these critical business problems that we have to solve. I would assume that AI can solve some of these, but not all of them." And then what they're doing is they're shopping organizations saying, "Hey, let me tell you the problem I have first, and then tell me how your AI can kind of solve and help to deploy that." So I would say we get folks from certainly both sides of that. Where we wind up getting a lot more traction is when it's the latter, when they're like problem focused first instead of like, "Hey, I'm shopping through the newest and zippiest AI tools. Would love to talk to you about what yours is."
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Like, we'll take those calls, but usually it's like, let's be a bit more prescriptive when we're having these conversations. So I'll try to kind of flip it on them and be like, "Well, what are you solving for right now? Like, what are your business initiatives? Why does your company want you to shop AI? Are there gaps in the business that you're trying to cover, or is it truly like, shiny object syndrome?"
yeah. Um, it sounds like you've developed an amazing AI coaching tool. As AI is developing, how do you see your tool, the AI coaching you're providing? How do you see that evolving over the next year to 2 years? And where do you think it's going in the near future?
I mean, hyperrealism and context is super important. I would say that any kind of learning or development, especially when you are serving end users, right? Like, we're not an AI infrastructure tool. Like, we are actually being used by go-to-market teams out in the open and providing data and performance analytics right back. In order to do that, you have to be a tool that is going to get adopted, meaning the reps and the people using your tool have to like it and they have to want to use it. So that's something that's critically important. On top of that, like, again, the element of hyperrealism and the right innovation is going to be huge. How much of this can and should we automate, and how much of this should we leave to people to kind of do on their own? And then 3 is just differentiation. There's a lot of tools out there that do a lot of things, and you could squint at a lot of them and say that we all kind of compete with each other. And so it comes down to like, what is the thing that we are really, really good at versus what is the thing that they are really, really good at, and getting super clean on that messaging.
Yeah, cool. So we're getting kind of close to the end of our time here, but what excites you most about the future of AI?
I would say the endless possibility to help human beings be stronger at their job. Like, I think that we're going to unlock a new level of human because of it. And I think most people answer that question and say, like, how much it's going to replace and all of that. And like, I certainly heard a lot of that at the conference that I was at. People who were like, "This is going to be replaced by AI." And I'm like, "Well, but what's not going to be replaced by it, and what's going to be improved by it?" And I believe if you look at the metaphor of running a marathon, I don't believe that anybody wants AI to run the marathon. I don't think that anybody wants AI to suddenly take over all of sports. There's something about watching human beings engage with each other. There's something about watching human beings persevere and strive to be better. I don't think AI is going to replace a lot of that, but can AI be a really, really good treadmill? Can AI be a really, really good coach? Can AI unlock the potential within you as a human being that you didn't even see before? Absolutely. And so I think it's the partnership between AI and people that I get the most excited about versus the replacement.
Yeah, that's a really refreshing approach to that question. I really like your answer. It's a very optimistic outlook about where AI and humans can interact in the future. And I agree with you. I don't think AI is necessarily replacing people. I think people who have a great experience utilizing AI the right way will replace people who don't.
Totally agree.
Yeah. So, people who aren't in that space really need to find a way to and get involved in the AI space to stay relevant. Is
Yes,
This is just my viewpoint on it. But
I agree with you.
okay. So where can people learn more about Luster?
You can visit our website, Lustre.ai. You can come find me on LinkedIn, Christina Brady. Feel free to shoot me an email, Christina@Lustre.ai. We're now on Instagram at GetLusters, and find us in a couple different places.
Yeah, you mentioned social media outreach you're doing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
good. I'll get those links from you, and we can share those in the description below. But Christina, thanks so much. I really appreciate you spending some time with us today. It's been really enlightening to hear your perspective on things. Thank you.
Much. Thank you.